This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and today we're with the best in the nation in Georgia. I'm here with BRY Enterprises. Since 2019, they have helped get your business on the journey to a vision-driven organization that's tracked and followed by all, with a cohesive, inspired leadership team. I'm joined with Bryan, who is the CEO, coach, entrepreneur. Thanks so much for joining us here today, Bryan.
Well, thanks, Gary. It's really an honor to be here with you today.
Bryan, you were formerly educated in business admin and management. You have volunteered your time on multiple boards. You have years of experience in sales, as well as vice president and CEO of ACS. A business consultant really kind of is a natural fit for you because business has always been in your blood. You're a lifelong entrepreneur. You're a lifelong entrepreneur since the age of 7, be it a Kool-Aid stand or selling laundry door to door. That was the foundation, really, that helped you run multiple companies throughout your life. Share with me a little bit how this journey got started for you.
Well, actually, to fast forward, when I say fast forward, it's by a couple years. When I was doing the laundry stoke gig, my dad was actually driving me around and dropping me off in front of people's houses. And then I'd walk up, actually this is 5 years old to be candid with you. And then he'd have me walk up to the front porch and say, "Hey lady, you got any dirty clothes?" And of course I've got a little red tie on and 5 years old. They couldn't turn me down. So, I saw all that stuff. The fascinating thing, you talk about the antithesis of things that happen the way the universe is built. My father went into business 3 times, failed miserably every single time from that standpoint. So I think I figured out a few things from there. And then unfortunately, my dad had a massive stroke at the age of 54, which paralyzed him. And that really helped me to say, you know what, I need to continue what his dream was. So it really helped me, give me that extra push, even though I had 4 or 5 companies under my belt at that point. But it really helped to push me towards the last company I had, which I sold in 2015.
Interesting. I mean, nothing teaches like failure, and obviously so much can be learned. Your vision basically is a belief that individuals want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Is that a common desire? I mean, is that something that's not maybe being met by many organizations today? And should being inspired by your work be a cornerstone success really for any company?
Well, it is. And it isn't happening enough. Unfortunately, like the word partnership and the word culture, it is being overused, if you will. But I found that, particularly in my last company, between the years of, say, 2009 and 2015, I literally was able to go from reactive behavior to inspired performance. And the bottom line is the inspired performance came in at how do the people at the front lines see the company? Because quite frankly, I think every CEO in the world stays up at night for a variety of reasons. And most of the answers that they're trying to figure out that they're responsible to spew out at the next quarterly meeting, really the line worker, the person on the front lines has ideas, but until you create a culture called transparency, it doesn't really give them an opportunity to be able to go forward. Now, this isn't a suggestion box, because quite frankly, a suggestion box is just what we used to call a bitch box, where people put stuff in there. It's really creating a culture that allows people to open up and contribute to something bigger than themselves because they know that they're going to be heard, where in most companies they're not, regardless of what the size of the company is.
After all, those folks are on the front lines. They have the pulse of the public out there. They have their ear to the wall. Definitely have great ideas. I mean, you have created an approach to this basic need that gives individuals working for an organization the ability and channels to become inspired. Do inspired employees create an environment and even a workplace culture that easily or more excels?
It does. And the way that we do that, when we first started out there, before I discovered EOS, which is a new journey in my life, is basically we created cross-functional teams that we called change and design teams that basically says, if you were to be the CEO and if you wanted to change X, how would you do it? And the more you start meeting like that, and there's standing meetings every Friday or every Tuesday, every Monday, whatever it is, they then start feeling that, you know what, I can actually open up say what I need to do, even if it's a criticism, and I don't have to worry about getting fired or giving a hard time from my boss.
Criticism can be good, especially when it comes from somebody who wants the best for the company. I mean, let's face it,
Yes.
the fulfilled employee is more productive. Does increased productivity equal less firefighting? And can constant firefighting be a drain on resources? Tell me what you found.
Yeah, so what we found is that when you go from, chaos to really clarity, in your company, you really have to go through what is the root cause of anything that happens. And usually what we do is that we go into meetings, we discuss, and then we look at our watches and we say, oh, it's time to go. They really don't get anything done. But specifically through EOS, which is actually the way that we did things similar, but EOS does it much, much better, is really identify, discuss, and solve an issue so it literally goes away for good, because you're getting down to the root cause and you're not looking at or hearing from people that are afraid of their jobs. They don't have this open culture that really allows them to be transparent enough to say, yeah, you know what? The root cause is because I could have done something differently. So they stand up and they say, you know what? I am part of that cause. I'm part of the responsibility for being what it is. Please give me the tools and the resources that I can have to not only make my job easier, but when things are starting to go really well at the front lines, guess what happens up above? But you got to get your leadership team together. That's the biggest challenge, and they all have to be on the same page. A lot of them think that they're on the same page, but in reality, they really aren't, because they're talking behind your back as a CEO, and there are people that may not be a right fit in your company, but you keep them on anyways because they're taking care of sales or some of the other pieces, but they could easily be stabbing you in the back because they don't believe in your belief system that you created through your core focus and your core values, which you have then communicated to the entire organization at least 7 times, because people don't hear it the 3rd or 4th time. You have to keep communicating this over and over and over, and that provides consistency. That starts to create a transparent culture.
Communication is key in the environment, and also being open to that communication. With your vast background in sales, do you feel focusing on long-term sales conversion models is really critical for the longevity of a company? And is that an area where your team can help?
Yeah, so the long-term sales are by definition, first of all, you have to figure out what really is determined as a long-term sale. Like in our company, the last company I had, we built fiber and copper cable assemblies. A pretty low level, what they call minor material. But guess what? If that cable doesn't show up, you can't hook that equipment up, and you got $1 million worth of equipment in there that can't work because the cable didn't show up on time or it showed up badly. So when you start taking a look at what does a long-term sale mean, it's about reaching out and creating relationships first, not trying to sell them anything. It's really building your network, which again is also predicated on the EOS way, to really help people first. When you start helping people first, and candidly as a sidebar, I used to treat my vendors at least as good, if not better than my customers, because guess who I saw more often, who I utilized more, were my vendors. So instead of beating them up on price and putting them in front of, I need another dime per foot, you really need to work with them from that standpoint. That creates long-term relationships that either is a project down the road or something that's needed in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's based upon that long-term sale, which I would rather use, say, long-term relationship to build sales and revenue.
Many moving pieces within an organization. I mean, companies that survive and thrive today, and they're fast-paced, high volume. Are these quick response environments something that your company can help develop?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things is you really need to step back and the proverbial work on your business instead of in your business. And one of the biggest successes that we personally had that I think is transferable to other pieces is, how do you disrupt the industry? The short cycle for us was when we were running about $660,000 when I took over the company. It was failing. They were $4 million down to $660,000. And then in a period of less than 4 years, we got up to nearly $50 million. How did we do that? We became a disruptor. All of the industry said 2 weeks notice before we can ship something to a job site. So literally contractors, AT&Ts of the world, and equipment manufacturers are waiting for that cable because they can't work without it. So we figured out a way to streamline that entire process, which, by the way, were ideas that came from the front lines, from the workers that was out in the plant figuring out how to do this. And we changed 2 weeks into 72 hours. So, and nobody could touch us for 3 years. Out of 9 competitors, we held 56% of the market for over 3 years. This is something that can be replicated depending if you really understand your industry and how do you become a disruptor. That really helps. And then efficiencies and all the other pieces that go with that, that kind of helps what we can do to help other companies.
Once again, listen to the ideas that come from the front lines, realizing their value, empowerment, accountability, transparency, and contribution. Is this still the foundation of really the operating system that your company teaches?
Yes, absolutely. You know, and there's the 2 words that you said that are most important are empowerment and accountability. You have to have both. You've got to give them the power, and they've got to be willing to be accountable for it. When I had people in my office that I would be doing as the last interview before they'd be accepted, I would look at them and say, if you make mistakes, it's okay. There is nothing that you can do that I can't fix. But let's try to work together to figure out how do we make sure that doesn't happen again. Because my belief system says structure is what breeds behavior. And when you look out over an entire company, all the issues that you see, the good, bad, and the ugly, is really the DNA of the CEO. So if they can look in the mirror and see how they really are and examine how they operate, how they manage, bad word, lead, then they can start rolling that out to the rest of the company and start getting feedback. And like I said, what we did is create design and change teams where they were actually heard from that standpoint in order to help that to go forward. And that's a mark of a good leader to be able to do that. Was I like that always? No. My mentor said, Bryan, you are the worst CEO that I have ever met. And he says, you're also the most improved CEO that I've ever had. That still gives me chills to have that, because that recognition is far more important than any money that I could ever have. And if you do it right, money just shows up.
Exactly. Empowerment, accountability, obviously huge, like you said. You spoke of a new journey that you're on right now. It's a world-renowned entrepreneurial operating system that you discovered with EOS. Tell us about this simple and straightforward toolkit approach to helping CEOs out there.
Well, the interesting thing is that after I did my last consulting gig, I was kind of looking for how do I cobble together ideas that have already been proven, used for hundreds of years, are going to be good for hundreds of years from now. And as I started dancing around looking for all those things starting to cobble together, then all of a sudden I discovered EOS. And when I saw EOS, I said, my God, where have you been all my life? And when I look at these things, every single tool in there is simple. Is it easy? No. Nothing of any value is never easy to be able to get there. Easy come, easy go. So as I started taking a look at what this is, I says, my God, my calling to be a teacher and to help first and wanting to share what I've not only learned on my own, but give me the tools to be able to help these people to implement different areas of their company based upon the 6 components of their business, which is basically vision, people, issues, data, processes, and the most important one is traction, which is the book that Gino had written. Well, Gino did all the work that I was trying to do 15 years ago, and since he had already done it, I jumped on this as an opportunity because, man, this is the most beautiful way to be able to get there, and we're not consultants either. That's going to be a little tough for me because I've been a consultant, especially when I was running CEO peer groups. But the bottom line is I've been called to be a teacher, so my job is to teach the tools, help facilitate how they fit and get customized for that company, and then coach them when they start to get stuck without telling them what I think that they should end up doing. So when you're a teacher, facilitator, and a coach, and you help them to run some of their meetings, especially their quarterlies and their annuals, the value is far more than what the cost of actually bringing you on board for that. And the beautiful thing, let me add one more last piece. Our job is to graduate these companies. We're not meant, like most consultants, it's to show up and stay there forever. Our job is to bring them through this process and graduate them in a period of 2 years so they can go off and do it themselves. And then we just go on to our next client. Very cool model. I love it.
Teaching them how to fish as well. What a great fit that company was for you. I mean, so basically after working as a facilitator and a coach for a 45 plus member C mastermind group right there in Atlanta, you consistently realize the frustrations of CEOs who were challenged just to implement some of the great ideas that they learned on those tables. So would you say that ideas are not really power by themselves, but the ability to execute is the real power.
Gary, that was brilliant what you just said, because what I found is that we provided great ideas and a great environment for these CEOs to be able to communicate with each other. And quite frankly, even the CEO's spouses and significant others really don't understand what it's like to be the CEO and have that pressure on them. Numerous times, these CEOs would get great ideas from what we would share with them, and they take it back to their companies. They're all excited. They bring it to their leadership team, and they listen, and they're trying to be nice with them and all that other pieces. But after a period of 90 days, because that's the way the human brain works, it has a tendency to die. The beauty with EOS is that it gives you tools in order to continue those pieces, and you take your company and customize it to those tools, and all of a sudden it becomes a lot more meaningful, because we really want to teach about vision, about the healthiness of the leadership team, and how they can get traction throughout the entire company so that the CEO can see that no matter where they go. And if they can cobble all the leadership together and they're all on one page singing the same song no matter where they go, when the leadership team is healthy, so goes the rest of the company.
That is excellent. I mean, let's be honest, this isn't your first rodeo. You've been around the block a few times. There are so many theories out there and approaches to improving business. The fact that EOS was a tried and true method, it's been around for decades, it's been proven on hundreds of companies, was that important to you and why you felt it was a good fit?
Oh, it was, and we're now up to 19,000 companies worldwide that are using implementers. 100,000 are using it and self-implementing. And candidly, a lot of self-implementers end up having to bring an implementer on because they really want that third part, accountability. The thing that really turned me on to this thing was that when Gino went out after, 4 or 5 years, and I could be wrong on my time frame, but the point is still the same, that when he went out and got a third-party consultant to come in and say, hey, look, talk to my top 10, 20 customers and have them tell you what they like best about EOS, which tools work better, and all those other pieces. Gary, it was amazing. When they came back, they didn't tell Gino that the level 10 meeting was the best thing. They didn't say that the vision traction organizer was the best thing. They said, Gino, because my company is running on a single operating system, which is not software, I have more time. I can now go to my kids' soccer games. I have a date night with my wife once in a week. And that's all because EOS was implemented with Gino's way of doing it when he finally found what tools were cobbled together to work best. It literally changed the CEO's life. And I said, okay, I'm in. I don't have to go looking anymore. I'll do it their way. And once you trust the process, it happens for everybody.
Wow, what a fantastic answer. I mean, obviously, like you say, the culture of the company affects the bottom line there. Your group are independent business owners and consultants with a combined experience of over really 100 years in owning, starting up, and selling successful businesses. Be it a large company or a small startup, do you feel your team has the tools that can benefit really almost any size of company out there?
They really can, because when you start taking a look at the basics of sales and marketing, and you take a look at the basics of how operations is working, and then you take a look at the finance side, no matter how many zeros are there, they're all basically the same function, regardless of what size the company is. Smaller companies, folks wear possibly more than one hat. When you get into a larger company, the P&L responsibility is still boiled down to a level that's not too dissimilar than a small company, 50, even $100 million company. Now, for EOS, where it is easier to implement, even though it's not easy to do that from the simple tools, we really look at anywhere between 10 and 250 employees, and anywhere from 5 to maybe 50 or $60 million. But I can tell you one thing I've learned from this implementer community, which is absolutely fabulous. Everybody shares everything. Nobody's competing against each other in that marketplace. And a lot of these companies have 600 and 1,000 employees. So the way they're rolling out EOS is no different than they do in a small company. They do it one step at a time. Once the leadership team finally ends up mastering those tools, they do it by department, and then they roll it out or roll downhill, if you will, from that leadership team, the same issues that they have there. How many people that they have, it just takes a longer period of time. But it really works within anybody that really wants to take their chaos and turn it into some more clarity by implementing EOS tools.
That's excellent. I mean, less firefighting, more productive work, obviously results in higher bottom line profits for the owners, for shareholders,
Absolutely.
but really ultimately to see a vision-driven organization to succeed, I mean, that has to be rewarding for you. Does this continue to be
Absolutely.
rewarding for someone like yourself after experiencing so many businesses, even seeing your father fail in business? Is this rewarding?
It's so rewarding that, you know, I'm getting goosebumps just, you know, saying it, because part of that piece, I've always said, if you haven't lost $1 million, I don't trust you. And some people look at you kind of strange. It's like $1 million in sales, $1 million in cash. There's something about that 7-figure that does that. And my point in even saying that is failure, not only you learn something from it, which is, you know, the textbook thing to say, but it builds character. And when you're able to build character, that's what you can do to catapult off of something like that to do better in your next business. I had 7, some winners, some losers, but boy, did I learn a lot and really build a lot of character out of the losers from that standpoint. So when I see companies that are struggling, just like I did in my early career, and instead of me trying to consult with them and tell them how to do something, it's like, okay, here's some tools. This is the process. We need to do it in this stepped order, because by the time that you get here, you're going to be absolutely amazed. You're going to be charged. And by the way, there's something called inspired performance that's going to occur at the same time, because now you're contributing to something bigger than yourself, which is something that's built into being human beings.
I know it'd be interesting to capture your full story. I'm glad you took me up on the invite. I reached out to you personally. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is their website. On the website, you can learn more about this team and its vision. I mean, you can see all the services they provide on the website. You can easily set up an online booking for a call, see if they're a good fit for your desired outcome. Reach out today and get your business on the journey to a vision-driven organization. Once again, that is BRY Enterprises, taking your business from chaos to clarity. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV, and if you don't know, now you know.